Hey guys, this is Kim again, and I thought I would come back and follow up to the first video I posted and just kind of talk about some of the symptoms that I had before, or I should say, leading up to my diagnosis. The earliest symptoms that I remember having were last year in March. I remember I was at a friend's house and she had like some wax or whatever. And so I was like, oh, okay, cool. I'll try the whole like at home wax thing where you like put the strip on and then, it dries and then you peel the wax off. So I noticed when I, was taking the strip off that I had like these two like white spots in the corner of my mouth. And I don't know if you can see them because my camera is not that great, but I kind of have like depigmentation right in the corners of my lips. And so it was very, very small, like maybe a centimeter, millimeter. It was very, very faint. But at any rate, it was depigmentation. And so then I started noticing, like around my cuticles on my fingers, that I had like very, very faint depigmentation. Like my friends and family really couldn't tell, even though I was like, hey, look, pointing it out. But they were like, oh, you're just tripping. Maybe you cut yourself, whatever, you just being whatever. So, anyways, um, as the months kind of progressed, it seemed like it was spreading, but not really. So I kind of just didn't worry about it. So I went to, what was it, Florida in May. We went to Miami and came back, and mosquitoes were bad. So I was thinking like, oh, I'll be okay. But I specifically remember my feet were like not necessarily swollen, but they felt swollen. It was just like this aching pain, kind of like the pain you get after you get bitten really bad by a mosquito. And so this kind of lasted for like 3 weeks. And I thought to myself, like, well, that's not normal for a mosquito bite to last that long. So, and I didn't have like any inflammation as far as like redness or like any bite marks. So I started to Google like maybe what the symptoms could potentially be. So symptoms that came up from that were, or not symptoms, but the things that came up from that were that I could have potentially had arthritis or something of that sort. And so I thought like, wow, arthritis. Who would have thought that, arthritis would manifest itself in your feet? Because at this point, I'm not thinking anything like I have an autoimmune illness. So I looked up like alternative remedies for arthritis because for whatever reason, I'm real big on like self-diagnosing myself. I really don't like going to the doctor, ironically, and I don't like taking medicine. So I was looking up alternative therapies, and one of the things that they said to do was to like cut out gluten, bread, grains, rice, pastas. So I kind of was like, well, sure. I mean, that's something that I could do. I needed to lose weight anyways. So I was like, that's something that I'm willing to try because my feet literally, I mean, it felt like they were going to explode out of my shoe. That's just how bad the pain had gotten. So anyways, I did that. And within like about, I say 2 weeks of just like sticking to vegetables, meat, fruit, I like eliminated the pain in my feet. So I thought that that was pretty awesome. And, I didn't have to worry about that anymore. During this time, my son, I have a 10-year-old son, his name is Kevin, he was playing football. So while he would play football, I would walk around the field and kind of exercise, walk up and down the hill. And that's actually how I lost a lot of weight. Um, Last year around this time, well, actually before that, last year in about August, I was about 276. And so now I am 197. And I had no weight loss surgery. Again, I didn't find out I had scleroderma until July of this year. So I changed my eating. I cut out a lot of bread, a lot of dairy, and I really kind of stuck to just fruits, vegetables, and meat and organic meats. So that was kind of what really helped me lose my weight in addition to walking. But the one thing, another symptom that I did notice when I was walking would be I would have like this soreness around like my midsection. like your lower back area. And then it kind of progressed to like, I guess my thighs, or like, I guess maybe your hamstring muscles. And so, of course, when you're exercising and you're actually trying to lose weight, you associate that pain with, exercising, working out. So I didn't think anything about that either. And I mean, this like kind of just went on all of 2015. Maybe towards, like I say, September of last year, the depigmentation that I was just telling you guys about, like on my fingertips and in the corners of my mouth, I started to notice that it was spreading. So it was going from, it was kind of being like all around my fingertips, and then the white spots were getting larger. So I decided to go to a dermatologist. And when I went to the dermatologist, at first I actually went to two dermatologists. The first dermatologist was like, "Oh, it's no big deal. You're fine." And he kind of just dismissed it like it was anything. Well, that wasn't satisfactory to me, so I decided to get a second opinion. And of course, second opinion, it was a female dermatologist. She, of course, advised that, in fact, it was vitiligo. So she actually prescribed me a steroid cream called Topicort. It really didn't do anything. I didn't see any difference as far as the depigmentation on my fingers. And so from there, I actually was in between jobs. I lost my job. And so my insurance obviously went away. I mean, I was supposed to have Obamacare, but it was expensive. So that just kind of, you know how that goes. So at any rate, I was also, during this whole time, of course, I was trying to lose weight. And so as I'm kind of going through this whole process of discovering that my health, I guess, is not as good as I thought it was, I started, Googling alternative therapies for vitiligo. And so what I also discovered about vitiligo is that it's like an autoimmune response where your body essentially kills off the melanocytes, which produce the melanin that makes us brown and darker or lighter skin. So that was kind of interesting to note. And I mean, I honestly, if I would have thought about it, I mean, vitiligo being an autoimmune illness or disease, it made sense. What I did with that was, I started using coconut oil as kind of like a moisturizer, and that kind of help like stimulate my skin, and like melanocytes, maybe they had gone to sleep and they need to be waking back up. I started drinking carrot juice, making green smoothies, and I saw some improvement, definitely with a very strict diet of just like mostly green leafy vegetables, and taking vitamin D, which actually is a huge deficiency that a lot of people with autoimmune illness have. Um, it slowed down the progression of the vitiligo. And of course, I did start to see some repigmentation. Um, so those were like some of the milder symptoms, I'll say, that I had last year. And then another thing, oh, I'm kind of scatterbrained about it, but another thing that I noticed is like when I would wake up in the morning, my like arm and like I'd say like my hand, it would just be really, really tingly. And then I had a lot of swelling in my fingers. And so, of course, I'm thinking maybe it's like carpal tunnel because, I have a office job. So you're on the computer. And so you're not really thinking like I have lupus or scleroderma, something that could potentially kill me. So you kind of just dismiss symptoms, not really thinking that it's an underlying issue. So again, those were some of the milder symptoms that I had last year. Now, fast forward to 2016, maybe say around like February, March, April, that's when I started noticing like my range of motion and my mobility skills were limited. Now, I was still walking, I was still exercising, but I started noticing like I was walking really, really like the best way to describe it is if any of you guys are familiar with Scooby Doo, remember Thelma with the glasses? and how like everyone else would be taking like these strides, but Thelma would be like walking all fast and stuff, but she couldn't keep up. That's kind of like how I was walking, but I wasn't going anywhere. And so it was just really weird. It was almost like my muscles were constricted, which I mean, I guess in a sense that's really what's happening. But at any rate, I noticed like, putting on socks. That was like the first thing that like kind of alerted me to the fact that like, something's going on. So I would like try to put my socks on and it would literally feel like my hip and my hamstring like would like we're gonna pop if I like tried to bend down anymore or lift my leg up anymore. And so that's kind of like when I started to realize that something is really going on, but you still, I guess it's one of those things where you're just oblivious to symptoms and you just think, oh, well, my body's changing, I'm 30 something years old now, and you just dismiss it and you don't take it serious. And I'm just telling you guys, like, little bitty things can turn out to be really big things. So if you have any concerns or any doubts, don't second guess yourself or just dismiss it. Like, go to your doctor and at least, just tell them your symptoms, because it could be something that's so much more than just, a sore muscle or a sore joint. So, anyway, that was pretty much what I was dealing with like my, range of motion. And then, it seemed like all of a sudden, like my arms, like I couldn't lift my hands over my head. I'm still having a difficult time with that. And so I'm now understanding it's like muscle atrophy, essentially. But I didn't go to the doctor. I was just still trucking along. I will say that I think that the trigger for me specifically was that I just recently graduated with my master's in social work. And so I started the program though in January of 2014. And so I went straight through because I got a late start. I got my bachelor's when I was 30, and I got my master's at 32, just turned 33 in October. And so I knew that if I stopped, I wasn't gonna, finish, and I didn't want to take any time. So January 2014, I enrolled. I was taking 15 hours. I did my internship, quit a job to do the internship. So I guess if looking at it, I was under a lot of stress. And so I want to say maybe that was the trigger that kind of like maybe I'm genetically predisposed to it because my mom had polymyositis, which is an autoimmune disease. But my environmental trigger was the stress, the outside stress of school, being a master's program, being a single mom, really not working and just kind of just thugging it out for like 18 months because that was my goal I set for myself. I said in 18 months, I'm going to get my master's. Well, the goal was achieved, but I mean, I paid a hefty price. So now, I'm thinking, well, I have, all this stuff going on with my body. And I guess I finally got to a point after I was just on the tail end of graduation where, like, okay, well, maybe I should start really paying attention to what's going on in my body. So I guess that's why, May, June, and July, I finally decided, okay, I'm going to go to the hospital. They run some tests, but it wasn't until chest pain. So, I mean, who knows what could have happened? I mean, I'm glad, I guess, I had the chest pain because I finally did go to the doctor and, find out what was going on. And that actually led up to my scleroderma diagnosis. So thank God for that. But I had plenty of symptoms before the chest pain. The chest pain did not start until, the summertime. But there was the tingling in the hands, the swollen, puffy hands, which was inflammation. There was the loss of the range of motion. There was, the pain bending over. There was the lower back pain. There was even, the tenseness in the shoulders. There was the skin depigmentation around my fingers and my mouth. Then, of course, it started off, which was what I first noticed, was my feet, being extremely swollen, feeling like, it was like a ongoing mosquito bite. And I mean, there's just so many different things that we just don't pay attention to. And so I guess I'm just wanting you guys to kind of take a moment, if you know someone, or if you know that maybe you had a family member, aunt, a grandmother, your own mom that maybe struggle with thyroid, any type of lupus, or any other type of autoimmune illness. Just pay attention to all of those different types of symptoms, because they manifest themselves in different ways. And it could be nothing or it could be everything. So I hope you guys can take something from this video, and just, if you have any questions, definitely comment, and I'll come back on here maybe in a few days and we'll talk about something else. But I just really want to bring awareness to scleroderma and other connective tissue autoimmune illnesses. Okay, thanks for your time. Good night.